Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is David from Daveden Web Dev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things WordPress, especially about accessibility and dynamic data. So if you can see me, you can hear me properly, let me know in the comments so that I'm not just going to be speaking to myself all day long. But yeah, I'll do my best to test. I think the sound looks okay from where I'm sitting. So hopefully everybody else can hear me properly. Yeah. All right. So today's live stream is going to be looking into like page builders, especially Elementor in this case. And I don't know if people saw the news recently about Dynamic Shortcodes version 1.7. I believe it's 1.7. It now integrates with ACPT. So you can use your ACPT fields within Dynamic Shortcodes, and that can now be translated into any page builder of your choice because Dynamic Shortcodes works with so many different page builders like Elementor, Bricks, Breakdance. It works with the full site editing, that is the core Gutenberg, and it also works with WP Bakery and anywhere you can use shortcodes. If you can use shortcodes in a page builder, then you can use dynamic shortcodes. So that's literally almost any page builder at all, because most page builders always give you an option to use shortcodes, and then that cannot be used with dynamic shortcodes. Although it depends on what license you have, so it all depends on your license. So if you have the Elementor, the dynamic shortcode, if you have dynamic content for Elementor license, then you'd only get access to the Elementor version of dynamic shortcodes. If you have dynamic toolbox for bricks, you only get access to the bricks shortcodes. But if you have the full license, then you get access to everything. So yeah, that is about it. So with that being said, I'll just give it a few more minutes to make sure it is working. I think it's working. And I'll just tell you a funny thing. Right before I was about to go live, I think about 30 minutes before I was about to go live, I tested my network speed, and I was getting like 3 megabits per second, which is worse than the mobile data. So that, I don't know what is wrong with the network in my house. Or at least over here in this studio, I need to improve the whole network system. Probably maybe next year sometime I will have to upgrade to a different provider because this is not really nice. I'm currently using my hotspot to share network to my system, and that's what I'm using to stream today. So I'm hoping that the network connection is good. But yeah. Okay, so that's about it with the Elementor. Now we just go ahead and let me just make sure I just open before we start talking about everything. Let me just make sure that it is streaming properly, because I haven't actually checked it out. And just give me 1 minute. Okay, yes, so it says I'm live, so that's good. That's all I need to know. All right, so the first thing we'll be talking about today, so the way it's going to be today is, first we'll start with talking about page builders in general, because I've been seeing a lot of new page builders that have been popping up. We'll talk about page builders, then we'll talk about custom fields plugins and why we really need it. And then we'll now move on to dynamic shortcodes, and I will give you a brief overview of how to use dynamic shortcodes, as well as how to use ACPT specifically within dynamic shortcodes. So let's just discuss about these page builders, because on one of our private groups, I saw a new page builder. I can't remember the name. I think it's called Mosaic Page Builder. I don't know if anybody has seen it. Mosaic. I just saw the recent news about it. I'll try to pull it up. But yeah, I think in this new era now, everybody is just talking about page builders. Lots of talks about different page builders. Everybody's, I think there's a widespread, what's it called? Like everybody now is looking into getting new page builders. Yeah. Oh, oh, interesting. But so is it showing at all, or are the stream not working? I think yeah, probably YouTube has a problem. But yeah, so thank you for joining in. So today is just going to be more about Elementor, speaking about no, not really Elementor, about dynamic shortcodes, but we'll be focusing primarily using Elementor page builder. And I'm just going to switch my pair of glasses. Yeah, this is better. Okay, yeah. Okay, so um M MD Adman, you say you have a question for Elementor layouts. Okay, so you can ask your question. I'll try my best to answer them, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so just talking about the whole Elementor thing. So like I said, I've been seeing so many new page builders. Let me see if I can pull up the name of that page builder that I just recently came across. It's called, where is it? Let me see if I can find it. I think they sent it on YouTube. Let's see. Just a minute. Yes, that's it. So just pull that up. Let me mute it. Okay, so the question is, I want to create a sidebar out of a boxed layout, but next to it. Interesting. So, a sidebar out of a box layout, but next to it, I don't know. Can you give me do you have an example of how it looks so that I can think about how I can come up with the idea? But I think that should be easy to do. You just need to. There are multiple. You can use CSS grid or something, but depends on the exact layout. So if you have an example of maybe a site that I can check out, just let me know. You can send it to me via email to info@daveden.co.uk. That can work. So let me see. info@daveden.co.uk if you want to send me an email. I think that should work. Let's see. I'm trying to. Oh, everything on my system has just logged me out. I don't know why. But yeah, let me just switch over my screen just to show you all the layouts that I was talking about. So this is the new page builder called Mosaic. Said you can build your own WordPress themes in minutes. So that's something. Maybe you can all check it out. Let me try and everything. I'm logged out of literally everything I own. I think maybe when I updated my system, every browser logged me out, even from my email. Okay, yeah, I've gotten access to my email. Yeah, okay. So anyway, yeah, so this is, I don't know if people have heard about this browser before, and then, but that's something. And then there's the new one, there's Buildarius, there's Edge, so Buildarius. There is Edge, and so many other page builders. Like I was speaking to a friend of mine recently, and then he was going on about how there are too many page builders nowadays that it's getting too much. There's Aviator by Dave Bloom. There is the Green Light or Green Shift that just came up on AppSumo, a great block editor if you want to use if you want to go into creating your pages using the Gutenberg editor. I would recommend checking out the Green Light. It's a powerful page builder. But yeah, so let's get rid of those. So now let's just get into it. So like I said, we'll be using Elementor as the base page builder, but you can use any page builder of your choice. But we've come up with a new update. If you check out under plugins Okay, so you have sent me the email. I'll check it out. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, if you're trying to get to, you're trying to be like everything to everybody. You're trying to jump from one page builder to the other page builder. You tend to lose focus. So it's good to stick to one page builder at a time. So yeah, for today's video, we're using Elementor version 3.33. The update just came out, I think, Monday. So if you haven't updated yet, you can go ahead and update. The Pro version is 3.33.1. Then I'm using ACPT version 2.0.43. And finally, Dynamic Shortcodes version 1.7.0. So those are the plugins we are focusing on today. And let me go ahead and check my email and see the layout. Can I stop getting adverts everywhere? Got it. Okay. Yeah, so, okay, let me see if I can pull up. So, okay, I now understand the design he's trying to make. So I'll show how to create the design. It's basically, so the idea, let me see if I can, I'll just quickly show the design now. The idea is that there is a page with like a boxed layout, but then you also have a sidebar where you can put in your content of your, so there are, let me see, interesting. Yeah, there are multiple ways you can actually approach this layout, and let's go ahead and that's the first thing I'll do. Let me see if I can just copy or show the image here. Oh, my system doesn't allow me to show download. Open it with photos. Yeah, exactly. This is it. That every new page builder, they always come up with a new feature. So you keep saying, "Oh, I want that feature," and then you jump to that page builder, and then you find out that, oh no, the page builder has some other limitations. Then you jump to the next one, and that's how everybody keeps jumping from page builder to page builder, and it just keeps getting worse. But let me see. Okay. No, this is wrong. What did I open? Um, trying to pull up the. So I'm going to show the image on screen so that people can see. I hope that's okay. Let me know if it's okay, MD, before we continue. While I pull up a new page, waiting for confirmation, I'll just pull up a page on my screen and go ahead and say, maybe this is test page. Okay, so just to to get it right, okay, yeah, I've gotten permission. Let's now pull it up on screen. So let's switch. So I'm guessing the idea is that, okay, so one problem is that in responsive, I get problems with it because I need it to get aligned with top sections. So I'm guessing the text area, is the text area itself 1140 pixels, or is the start of the red line to the other start to the end of the red line 140 pixels? It depends. So if it's just the middle section, that is the 1140 pixels, there are some ways you can do it. You can, let's see. Let me pull up a page. Okay, so this is the test page. And let me zoom out a little bit. So I'll create a new section, a new flex box. And within this new flex box, let's just put in 2 containers. So say no, okay, I'm using I'm using the old containers for now. So I'll put in 2 containers. Let's duplicate it. If I can actually see. Okay. Then let me pull up the inspector just so people can see. So this will be the section. Then that will be the main, or let's start with the sidebar and the content or the main. Oh yeah, let me just call it content or body. So we want that the content itself should stick to 1140 pixels. Then the sidebar should be outside of it. I'm guessing that's what you mean. So the easy way to do it is using CSS grid. So we'll come to the parent section. So this parent section, we now go over to the layout, change it from a flex box. Let me zoom in a little bit so that I can see. So change the container layout from a flex box to a grid. That's the first thing. Then we can, let me get rid of my face. Okay. So next, you go over to your columns, and instead of 3FR, change the unit from FR to the pencil icon. Then we can replace the comment unit with something different. So we can say something like auto, then min of 100%, or no, not 100%, yeah, comma 1140 pixels, and then no, not auto, sorry, I mean 1FR, and then 1FR again. Hi AR, thank you for joining in. So now what we have essentially done is we've created 2 sidebars and 1 main content area. We can even use grid areas for this, but let's just use standard grid template columns. So basically I said the first part should be 1 fractional unit, the other part should be another 1 fractional unit, and then the middle portion should be min of 100%, comma 1140 pixels. Oh, sorry, I wrote an and symbol instead of a percentage. Okay, yeah, so that's it. So I think that should now make it work. So now we can put our content in the center. So I'll put the content. Let me just add some random text. And I'll just call it maybe paragraph. Put some random text in there. No, that's the sidebar, sorry. So the content, random text. This sidebar should have maybe a nav or a list. Okay, so yeah, then finally we can now start putting them in the right section. So we want the container, the content to be in the second grid column. So what we now do is go on the advanced tab of your content. You now go over to column span, and we choose custom, and it will be, I think, how does it work again? 1-2. Oh, I'm just going to use custom CSS first and see how everything works, and then we can use this whole thing again. I just want to be sure that I'm writing the right thing. So let's delete everything and start from scratch. So first, container, I'll choose the grid, and I'll just choose any of the grid. I'll change it later. Then within the grid, I'll add 2 containers. So 1 and 2. So 2 containers. The outer grid, I'll set it to full width, not boxed, full width, because I'm going to be using CSS grid to bring back the content area. Then the width will just be 100%, okay? Then the two containers within the grid, the first one will be for our content and or maybe for our sidebar. Because I want on mobile, the sidebar content should be at the top before the main content area. So then the main content will be the second container. So then for the grid, I'm going to create a three grid layout. So what I'll now do is on the grid, we come over to the columns, and instead of 2FR, I'll put the pencil icon. First, I'll start with something basic. I'll say 1FR, 1140 pixels, 1FR, okay? Then I'll change it later, but this is just the basic structure. Then the next thing I'll now do is put some content into the two containers so I know where everything is. So the sidebar, I'll put in a list icon, which usually is what is in the sidebar. Something like your related content or some kind of list will be in the sidebar. And then in the main content area, I'll put in something like the paragraph. But I think it might be better to not put, now that I've been thinking about it, 1140 pixel will be too big because most computers are around that 1140 pixels. So what I'm thinking is the middle section should be something smaller, like 60 characters, but then the total width should be 1140 pixels. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know. What do you think? Because my idea is that 1140 pixels is actually quite massive. So instead of doing it this way with the sidebar, because this is quite small, when you look at the image, the width of this text is quite small. I don't think this is 1140 pixels. I believe something like from the beginning to the end is 1140 pixels, and then the middle is just like maybe 700 pixels, which is like 60 characters or 50 characters. That's what I'm guessing. So I'll go with it that way first, and then we'll change it later. So yeah, where was I? So instead of doing this, so I'll leave it as boxed first. So the grid, I'll put it back to boxed. Then instead of 1140 pixels, I'll say something like main of maybe 100%, comma, no, not 100%, maybe 50 characters, comma, maybe 50, something like that. So now we are getting something better. And the width is the boxed width. Ignore the top because I changed the width, the original width of my header section. That's why it's not aligning up. If I want it to align up, I can just give the actual width to be var . Yeah, I think it should line up now. And yeah, so now it's lining up. So now we have, as you can see now, we have the content area center. We have the sidebar starting at the right point, and then everything should work. If you want the sidebar to be on the third column, we can now go to our advanced tab of our sidebar column, then head over to it's not showing up. Yeah, grid item. So column span should be custom, and it should start from 3 span 1, I think. Then the other one, so that's 1 2, 3. Okay, and then the content. The var is only for the new Elementor feature. If yes, so yeah, I just that var I put is yeah, it's just from my own. You can use it as 100%. You can use it as 1140 pixels. That's if you are using it on your own website. But for me, I created the var myself. So yeah, the var is for the newer one. So for the sidebar, we make it 3. So you go over to your, for the sidebar content, you go over to advanced tab, grid item, and change it to 3/span1. Then for your content area, you go over to the advanced tab again, and same thing, you go to grid the column span, and then instead of default, you now do custom, and this time we'll say 2/span1, and it should center. Why is this not doing what I expect it to do? So we'll now go back to the grid. And okay, yeah, sorry, the last thing is the row. I don't know why I'm just jumping around. So yeah, the last thing is, you see that now the sidebar is at the top, the content is at the bottom. That's because the first sidebar is on the first row, second content is on the second row. We need to make them on the same row. So we have to now go back to each of them. So the sidebar, advanced tab, we go to the row span, and we just simply write let's custom 1/span1. And as you can see, it automatically comes back. Same thing with the content, we just to make sure. So you go to your content, go to the row span, change it to custom, and then with the same thing, we'll do 1/span1. And now when we add all of our content, I can keep duplicating content. And you see if I publish and preview on the front end, it should ideally stay within the boxed content area. I don't know what is happening. Inspect. Yeah, so okay. So it's staying within the box content area. You can see the sidebar. The sidebar spans to the edge. The only thing is just that the content is aligned to the left. So if I want to align it to the right. Oh yeah, sorry. I just realized that you're on a left to right. Okay, yeah, so that's it. Thank you. I hope you understand. So if you now go over to your mobile view, you now have to now revert everything to one row, and that's it. Everything should work out just fine. So as you can see, if I put a background color on this sidebar just for you to see, background color, publish, and preview on the front end. If this will work, refresh. Sometimes this Elementor's caching can be very funny, so I have to clear. So as you can see, so we have the content area, which is set to the whatever I want. If you want it to be 1140 pixels, you just set it in your grid container. So the grid containers, you can change the center portion. So what I've said is the two sidebars should have equal width, and then the center should have whatever width that you want to set up. So if you want it to be 1140 pixels, set it to 1140 pixels. If you want it to be the standard reading width, which is about 50 characters, you can set it to that, and it will just work out. Then you now go to your mobile view, and then you change it to grid column 1 FR, and that should work. What I mean is, if you can come to your mobile view, and you have to now reset everything back to normal. So you go back to the grid, then set it to one FR. Then you go to the sidebars, and you just reset their column span and row span. Basically, just set them back to 1. 1 row span 1. Same thing with the content. go to Advanced tab, column span 1, row span 1, and we now have the layout working out responsively. So on mobile, it will revert back to the standard layout. On desktop, it will be in the 3-column layout with the 2 sidebars just having equal width, and then the middle one having whatever width you want to set up, as well as having a max width that doesn't just touch the edge of the screen. So everything just works. Okay. Hi, Eddie. Thank you for joining in. I know I just went on a tangent trying to solve the layout issue. But now we're just going to be talking about Elementor, and we'll be talking about first dynamic shortcodes and why we even need dynamic shortcodes, because dynamic shortcodes is a pretty powerful plugin. It helps you to do so many things, but lots of people still are not sure about what dynamic shortcodes actually offers. So today's video, I'm just going to show you what it offers, and you decide if it's right for you or not. So yeah, that is what we're going to be doing. And to really get the power of dynamic shortcodes, it works well with a custom fields plugin. There are so many out there. You have ACPT, you have ACF, you have SCF, you have Metabox, Jet Engine, Pods, and so many other ones. Even admin and site enhancements, they have their own custom fields. So that's called the ASE custom fields plugin. And yeah, we keep hearing about all of these custom fields plugin, but what exactly is their purpose? What do they actually do for us? The whole purpose of a custom fields plugin is that we're trying to abstract our design from our content. So especially in a case where you have content writers that will be writing content for you, and you're not just going to be writing everything in the page builder, because we don't want to be writing all of our content within a page builder. We want to use a page builder to create a layout, and then we want to populate that layout using content from the editor. So we don't want to have that complexity from our content writers, because they are not web designers. They just know how to write content. So we want to make the process easy for them. So what we do is we use a custom fields plugin to abstract different portions of a page, so that those portions, the content writer can just fill in content into those portions. They don't need to create a new design from scratch. It is very powerful when we're creating blog posts. You know how you have your blog post, you have, like, at the top you see the title of the page, then you can see maybe the author of the content, then maybe at some point you see, like, share this page, like all those share links, you see the main content, you can see a sidebar. So all of those things, we want to make them dynamic. We don't want to be having to populate all those things over and over again. So that's where we get the power of using a custom fields plugin plus dynamic shortcodes. When you combine them together, they now make life easy for you. So that's what we'll be trying out today. So let's just go ahead and see. So for example, let's see if I can pull up a page that I worked on. Let me first open it up before I switch my screen. Why is it delaying? Book reviews. Okay, so for example, I did this design a while back, where we have different book reviews, and if you look at each of them, oh no, this is the wrong one. Apologies. Let me just try and make sure I get the right one. Why is it broken? Let me try and log in first. Just give me a minute. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And I hope I was able to answer your question, MD. Let me see. Yeah, okay. So let me make sure I have the right page open. Okay, just translations. Okay, so I'll go over to the page again. Book reviews. And is this the right template? No, it's not the right template. Still using the wrong template. Let's see, what template am I using for this page? Just let me go to my releases. And yeah, I should be using the right template, I think. Let's try with that one and see. No. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I did. But basically, the idea was that I had created a template, and I just wanted to show you that what you now do is you have one template, and all you're doing is the content writer is just feeding in information into that content, and it is automatically doing what they need it to do. So if you go over to one of the book reviews, hello Jimmy, thank you for joining in. And yeah, so you see the content writer, all they have to do is they put in the content, and so they'll put in like the content here, they put in some custom fields, they just populate the custom fields and the content, and then on the front end, everything just goes into the right layout for them. They don't need to be worried about the layout. They just put in the content in the right places, and then the layout just auto-populates itself. So that's one of the beauties of using a custom fields plugin, whether it is with Elementor, whether it's Breaks, whether it is using any native custom fields plugin like the custom core WordPress custom fields plugin, whatever. Just the idea is that you're trying to abstract your design from your content. There's that division of, what's it called? The separation of concerns. That's what we normally call it. You're trying to separate design from content so that content writers can worry about content. The web designer will worry about the web design, and then the web developer brings everything into one place. Hello, Toby. Thank you for joining in. Oh no, it's you're not that late. I've been, we've been just geeking around. And yeah, so I think I saw a question. If anybody has answers to that question that is in the comments, I'll just put it up. So I need a loop grid to have two templates. The grid has to select the template based on a CPT boolean or some calculation like featured image size, like is it portrait size or not. Okay. I need a loop grid to have two templates. The grid has to select the template based on a CPT boolean. If you want to do all this kind of like custom templating with alternating structures, that's one of the powers of dynamic shortcodes. So you can leverage dynamic shortcodes in that scenario and say, I don't know, I'll try and see if I can do something, but it requires a bit of custom coding, yeah. Unless you're using a plugin like Jet Engine. I think Jet Engine has that query builder that can help you build queries and use alternate templates. Elementor's alternate template is quite limited. It only has some few options for how you determine how the template alternates. But if you have if you want to do something really custom, you can use dynamic shortcodes, and all you do is add an if condition that says, okay, maybe if this custom field is a toggle switch is on, then show one template, otherwise show the other template. So yeah, you're right that it requires a little bit of custom code. Yeah. So I CPT is wrong. I mean custom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think I got the question right. about custom fields. I will try. I may not be able to do it properly now. Who's calling me? So, but I will try and see if I can do it with dynamic shortcodes. But let's see. Let's just test out dynamic shortcodes a bit. Okay, so let me switch my screen. So here we have, let me close all of these. These are the wrong ones. Okay. So right now I've used ACPT to create a custom fields plugin. So if you go over to my custom post type first, I've created a new custom post type called book reviews. So I'm trying to separate concerns. So I want to separate my blog posts from reviews that people do about books. So this is going to be like a book review website. So I've basically a custom fields or custom post type. They're all just to separate like content from design. So you're trying to like create a new layout for all of your book reviews. So I've created a new post type for that system. So then we have book reviews, and then within the book reviews, I have basically created the field group that's called book review fields. Then that is attached to the book reviews post type, and I've also added a taxonomy called genre that is attached to the book reviews CPT. In the past, we had to use a workaround when we tried to pull in this ACPT data into any page builder using dynamic shortcodes. But now we can do everything natively, because if I go to dynamic shortcodes and we go over to their changelog, you'd see that there's a new update that was just released quite recently, and it says integration with advanced custom post types, which is ACPT plugin. So they've added, basically you use ACPT colon for retrieving regular fields, or use ACPT-loop whenever you want to do a repeater field, or ACPT-row. I think that's for the flexible rows, flexible content, ACPT-row. And we'll test out a few of them now. So now let's go over to our page. Like I said, I've created a custom post type, I've created a taxonomy and field group. And now you can see an example of the book reviews there. So that's it. I've just created two examples. One is Dancing with Shadows and Crimson Lights. And we can go ahead and test out one of them. As you can see, I have the title, I have some content, then at the bottom, I have some meta fields. Those meta fields, you can see the full list if you go over to field groups, and I go ahead and edit. Let's zoom out a little bit. Edit it. You can see all of the fields I created. First, the name is called book-reviews-fields. Then the actual meta box is called book. Then we have some different fields. ACPT, lots of these new custom fields plugins, they tend to have like lots of options that you can use. What do I mean? If you check out the field type, there are tons of options. There's editor, number, range, text area, password. They give you lots of options that you can choose from. A lot of the new ones, they do all that. I think even the older ones have added some of these fields, but they give you so many different options so that you can format your content in the best way possible, like the best format that you need. If you need your custom field to only output numbers, you just set the field type to number. If you want it to output just a toggle switch, you set it to toggle, and so on. So any one you want, you set it to that option and you get it there. So that's what I've done for one of my post types. I've added a subtitle, a quote, release date, and so many other one. And yeah, so that's it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and test out some of these, the custom fields. So to do that, I'll be creating a new post template. So I'm going to create a new template that will output all of this content that we've written in the block editor. So I'll go over to my theme builder, which is Elementor templates theme builder. And I'll create a new template. So add new. The template is going to be a single post template. You can choose from one of the designs. I wish they would add some more designs, but these are the basic ones. But we're going to start from scratch. So I'll just close it. And now we can start laying out our content. So let's say we want to have, by default, we have the header section, we have a main content area, and then we have the footer. So within the main content area, we want to now add our article, which is our book reviews. So let's go ahead and start up with a container. So I'm using, let me even use the new, let's try out with the new version 4 atomic elements. So I'll add in a div. Within that div block, I'll add in a flex box. The one thing I wish Elementor would do is just a way to like insert multiple elements. Right now, the moment you click, I can't like hold shift or control or anything to click on multiple elements to add to the thing. You either have to click and drag, and the moment you drag it in, it goes into the styling panel. So that's not really what we need right now. Okay, have to go. Nice. Oh, okay, yeah, you're welcome, MD. Glad I could help you out. So yeah, this is not what we. So where was I? Okay, yeah. So we have the div block, and then we have the flex box. So the div is going to be, in this case, let's just say it's going to be an article. And then within the article, we'll have maybe a header section. Then we'll add maybe another flex box that will be for maybe our main content. Then we can add other things like maybe a footer section for our author's name and everything. So basically, you first create you have your design already somewhere, some kind of design somewhere. And now we're just trying to populate with the data. So I'm not going to really focus much on the design itself. Let's see how to pull in the data using dynamic shortcodes. So maybe the first thing we need is like the post title. So I'll search for a heading element. And we want it to be an H1. So instead of adding static text, we want to use dynamic text. Let me just add a few classes. No, I think it's called container. Oh, interesting. I can't use container as the name. Okay, yeah. So instead of using static data, we want to be using dynamic data so that everything is populated from the content that the content writer has written. So I will replace this static text with some dynamic data. This is one thing that I don't know, I'm still a bit skeptical about, is this fact that the dynamic tag only appears when you hover. So sometimes you can struggle to find the data. If you have to first, let's say you click in, it disappears. You literally have to like go out and then hover back in. That's the only way you see the dynamic tag. And I don't know, it's a bit of a struggle. But yeah, at least you can use the tab key to tab to the dynamic tag, which is good. And So ideally, you can just search for post title if you want, but we're going to be focusing on using dynamic shortcodes just to see how dynamic shortcodes works. So I'll search for dynamic shortcodes. Then I'll click on the shortcode. No, then I'll click on, what is it, settings here, the setting icon. This is I think sometimes it's just easier. Some of these newer page builders like Bricks and Builderius, they make life easier that you can just write your dynamic tag inline, but with other page builders like Elementor and with Breakdance, you literally have to first choose your tag, then go into settings before you can now add the content that you need in. So it's a long process, but yeah, it's not too bad. So now let's now see how let's see how dynamic shortcodes write their tags. With dynamic shortcodes, the way you think about it is this. First, you think about, what am I trying to get data from? So let's say you're trying to get data from a post. So there are multiple options you have, but that's how you have to think about with dynamic shortcodes. First of all, you think about, okay, what data am I trying to get? I'm trying to get my post title. So what am I trying to get? I'm trying to get the title of the post. So the main object I'm trying to access is my post. So you start with post, then you put a column, and then what am I trying to access within the post is the title. Same thing with like a taxonomy term. So I'm trying to get access to maybe the name of the term. So the object I'm trying to access is the term. So you start by putting opening of a curly bracket, then you put the object you want to access. Is it a post? Is it a term? Is it a meta field plugin like Metabox, ACPT, ACF, whatever? So that's what you now put as the first section, which is the key. Then you put a column, and then what's the exact item I'm trying to access within the post, or within the term, or within the user, or within the options page, anything like that. So that's how it is set up. So let's test it out. So for example, I'm trying to get the post title. So I'm trying to access my post. So you open the curly bracket, you write POST, post, then colon, and then what am I trying to access is the title. So I'll put title, and then I'll close it. And immediately it gives me my post title. So same thing with, let's say I'm trying to get the date of the post. So I'll put post, colon, date. And it gives me the date of the post. So this is the base of how dynamic shortcodes work. You start with, what is the object you want to access? Then what exactly is the field within that object? I'm trying to access the post. The field I want to access is the title. So the same thing now with ACPT fields. So you start with so let's first do this one. So the post title. So post, colon, title. Close the curly bracket, and that's my post title. And then let's say the next thing we're trying to access, let me zoom out a little bit. It's too zoomed in. Okay. The next thing I'm trying to access, let's say I'm trying to access the content of the post. So there are two ways. You can either use the Elementor's basic dynamic tag, or you use dynamic shortcodes. But in this case, I'm trying to use dynamic shortcodes for everything. So I'll go ahead and put in maybe a text editor widget. If I can, I don't know why I can't. I'm really struggling. Okay, yeah, text editor. Let's see. Let me pull up the inspector. What is? Oh no, I'm just zooming. I zoom in quite massively because I like to zoom into about. I just use Ctrl plus the regular zoom. I can see a question about the key combination that I use to zoom. I just do Ctrl plus, and then it zooms me into the page. Because I tend to struggle a lot, so I like to just zoom into about maybe 200 to 300% to read the text. Then I zoom back out to see the design. So I usually I usually switch my zoom of my page a lot. So yeah. So let me zoom back out. No, I went to the wrong page. Let me go to Control 3, 4. Okay, yeah. Then zoom back out. Okay, so I made a slight inaccuracy. Let me go to my, this text editor should be in the content area. Yeah. And I'll just put same thing wrapper. All right, okay. Oh no, I don't. I think there are some plugins that allow you to zoom into particular settings, but I just use continue. I do continuous Control Plus multiple times until I get to the right amount that I need. So for the post content, you can do one of two things. You can either choose to use dynamic shortcodes or you use the post content widget. I think for the post content, it's better to just use the post content widget, although let me just show you with dynamic shortcodes. With dynamic shortcodes, it's the same thing. So I'll go to dynamic shortcodes, click on the wrench icon, and like I said, I'm trying to get the content from my post. So you start with open the curly bracket, post, colon, and then I'm trying to get the content. And then close the curly bracket. And it pulls in the content of your post the way you need it. And that's how you just keep getting any of the data. So you can get the post date, the post, anything. You just use, if it's post data, just put post and then the data you want to get from that post. But if it's a meta field plugin, then you just put the name of the meta field plugin. For example, if it's meta box, you use meta box colon and then the name of the field. If it is ACF, you use ACF colon and then the name of the field you're trying to get. If it is jet engine, you use jet column and so on. So now with ACPT is the same. You use ACPT column and then the name of the field you're trying to access. I'll be jumping off soon so that people can join another live stream, which is the Matt Mullenweg live stream. I'll leave a link to it in the description so I don't forget. Let me just share the link now. It will be starting in about 3 minutes, so I wouldn't blame you if you jump over to that stream now, because I will be jumping off soon as well. I'll do a better live stream next week where we go through in depth into these dynamic shortcodes in a more step-by-step manner. But first, let me share the event in the chat. Okay, so that's the meetup event. It's a free meetup, so you can go ahead and access it. It's going to be talking about accessibility and how it helps us out and what is their direction in WordPress. So now, if you want to get any ACPT field, you can do one of two things. Right now I've been showing you how to do it manually, but sometimes you don't really need to do it manually. You can do it automatically. The way to do it automatically is Dynamic Shortcodes has a handy way you can get the right fields that you need. So you just go over to Dynamic Shortcodes and then Demo Shortcodes. Then you can see all of the shortcodes that you can access for any individual page or term. So let's say I'm searching for, I think I called it Dancing with Shadows, one of the posts. So now you can see I've accessed this Dancing with Shadows. It now gives me everything I can access from the post. This is the post object. Everything I can access from that post object. If it is the ACPT field specifically, you can now just see the fields that you can access and you can just copy that code. You don't need to remember what to write. Just come here, search for your particular page or post, look at the data that is being retrieved. If it is the right data, then you can now come and just copy. Just copy that example and that's it. So for example, let's say, let me zoom in a little bit. So let's say you are trying to get the subtitle. The way ACPT works is you put ACPT colon, then the name of the meta box, let's see an example. So the name of the meta box in this case is called book. That's why you see it. Where is it? There. So ACPT column, the name of the meta box, book, space, then the name of the actual field that you're trying to get, which in this case is subtitle. So you start with book, space, subtitle, book, space, quote, and so on. And that's how you keep getting your fields. So we can just go ahead and copy it down. And make sure I put the right preview, because right now we're previewing Hello World, which is the wrong post. So I have to go to, I think, where is it again? Single post settings. Then preview and choose the right preview, which is going to be our book reviews, and apply preview. Okay, so now we're getting the right data. So if I want to get that subtitle, I can come to my dynamic shortcode and we'll say paste. So ACPT colon book space subtitle, and we get the subtitle. Same thing with the other fields. Let's see. If it even is a repeater field, any type of field at all is the same principle. So let's say a repeater field. In this case is, I think I called book major characters is a repeater field. That's why you see this, the result is an array. So you just expand examples. When you see results an array, it means that you need to do some further processing, but just expand the example and see what you can do with it. And this is something you can do. You can do ACPT book major characters pipe symbol, which means that you're trying to apply a PHP function, and the function we're applying is the dump function. So I copy and I paste that here. You see it gives us our array of the Elara chain and so on. But I think they didn't put the proper example for it. This example should be using this new one called the ACPT-loop. So I just need to switch it to ACPT-loop. I hope that works. Accepts between 3 arguments. Okay, so book, major characters, and then, so this is book, major characters, and then the template that I need to return. I believe that's what it is. So I'm trying to return li/li, and okay, so that is, and now ACPT colon the name. I believe that's it. Yeah, so that's it. So basically what I'm doing here is, the way ACPT-loop works is it accepts 3 information. The first information is the name of the meta box, which is book, space, the name of the field itself, which is major-characters, then space, the template you want to return. So in this case, I'm trying to return an li. So let me wrap everything in a UL first. So UL, and it's returning, but then within that repeater, so let's go down to the bottom. Let me zoom out to be the right zoom. So I called a repeater. Where is it? You see the repeater name is called major characters, and then the actual field is called name. So that's why I had to do ACPT the name, and then I was able to get the name from the field. So that is basically it with the fields, and this is how you do it. So like I said, this is just I was just testing it out today. Next week I'll now go and I'll start from scratch teaching how to use the whole ACPT and dynamic shortcodes. So I will try and do a basic overview of dynamic shortcodes from scratch. So what dynamic shortcodes is, how to create your shortcodes, and how to use ACPT with dynamic shortcodes in the next live stream, which is next week, Thursday. I'll be doing another live stream on my second channel on Saturday, that will be talking about green light, but that is for next Saturday. So I want to say thank you all for joining in today, and I'll be jumping on to the other Zoom meeting now, which is free. I've left a link to it in the description, so you should also join it. It's called Chat with Matt Mullenberg, Past, Present, and Future of Accessibility in WordPress. So yeah, so that is basically it. So thank you all so very much for joining in today. I know I was just rambling today. Don't worry, next week the live stream is going to be a lot more like precise and a lot more like planned, basically. So thank you all, and I'll see you all next time.